The Enlightenment Show. Be reasonable.
Hello, and welcome to the Enlightenment Show. I'm your host tonight and the producer. Mark couldn't make it. I am thrilled to tell you we have two incredible guests tonight, both of which are ex-ministers. Yes, you heard that correctly. And let me go ahead and just introduce them. I have on my left here Dr. Robert M. Price. He's professor of theology and scriptural studies at Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, and he's a fellow of the Jesus Seminar. He's author of the book we're talking about tonight, Top Secret, The Truth Behind Today's Pop Mysticisms, as well as his last one was The Reason-Driven Life, which was a rejoinder to Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life. He's currently working on rebutting Lee Strobel, so we'll stay tuned for that one. To his left is John Loftus, who grew up in Fort Wayne. He preached in Angola. He runs the blog debunkingchristianity.blogspot.com. And he's author of Why I Became an Atheist, A Former Preacher Rejects Christianity. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Yep. Thanks. So I just want to start with focusing on what's going on in their spiritual marketplace today. I know in your book you talked about there's a hunger for spiritualism with a lot of what Oprah's pushing with this new age spiritual mysticism. And there's at the same time there's a rise of the so-called new atheism and Mormons. What do you guys think of that?
I'll speak to the new atheism if you want. I think that one way to characterize new atheists from, say, the old atheists is that the new atheists are a little bit more in your face. A lot of Christians think that their arguments are lame compared to like J.L. Mackie or Bertrand Russell or someone like that. But it appears to me that Dawkins, for instance, is just so against religion and he knows how to do research. It's just that it seems to me it wasn't worth the effort to do the research. He knows it's wrong because science, he accepts science. And so it's like he's treating religion like we would treat the gods of Zeus or Thor. And that's what makes it the new atheism. And it has really gained quite an audience. I mean, for instance, on Borders shelves now, there's an atheist shelf, whereas before there wasn't. And I just hope our books end up on that shelf. I'm pretty sure that his already are. And so there's really quite a conversation, quite a discussion going on about spirituality, partly because of that.
I get the impression that new atheism is oblivious of the need for spirituality that this whole other movement is about. It seems to me that Hitchens, who I love, he's hilarious, and these others, it's like they can't imagine what appeal religion could have to anybody, and aesthetically, psychologically, philosophically, so they just think, well, it's idiocy, and you must be an idiot if you believe in it, and so they're merely offensive, and they don't seem to realize that most people are not into religion because of the intellect. I could prefer that they would be, but that isn't why they're interested in it. It can be as silly as just figuring, well, I'm going to marry someone of a different religion, so I better just change clothes religiously. And I figured Jesus was the Messiah yesterday. Today I figure he isn't because I want to get married.
Or the Pope.
The same.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're gonna go with love there, and that makes sense. But so what about this mysticism, the whole Oprah movement? Are those people coming from more fundamental churches? Is it coming? Where are they coming from?
They strike me as, well, you do have fundamentalists flocking to this in the mega churches, and especially the most mega of all of them, the Joel Osteen audience cult, as one might call it. And by that I just mean you have a big movement of viewers, readers, whatever, that hang on your every word. Not that they would drink poison flavor aid if you told them to. It's not sinister or anything, but they want this guidance, and you are the one with the lighthouse. You're the one they go to. Just like Peter says to Jesus in John 6, to whom else shall we go, Lord? You only have the words of eternal life. Well, people seem to feel that way about Osteen and megachurch preachers, but what is it they're talking about? It's very worldly and materialistic. How can I succeed in my job? How can I succeed in my relationships? Good questions. But even in what used to be the old-time fundamentalism, it's much more secularized and this worldly. And this is, therefore, it's no surprise to me that Osteen's, the gasoline that runs his car, is not the Bible, despite his cosmetic citations of it. It's really the New Thought doctrine that comes from the turn of the previous century, mind over matter. He just sprinkles it with a few Bible references, but that's what all the Oprah thing is too, the secret and all of that. The secret is that the universe is one big principle and system of occult laws that you can manipulate, and therefore you can cause magic to happen. And so this seems to me to be childish. It's not that there's not good psychology down there somewhere, but it's promoted with bad science and bad philosophy.
Yeah.
It's pop psychology.
And it doesn't matter if you're a fundamentalist or Oprah. You're winding up the same place.
Logically, it doesn't make sense, as you said in your book. But it also, but psychologically, it does. It's basically being positive about what other position you're in. Is what he does. If you're losing, he's got a way to explain that. If he's winning, well, God selected you to do that. So I found that fascinating in your book, and it does tie. It's interesting how he pulls quotes from the Bible to try to make that new thought work. And it's, as you pointed out, it's not doing too well at that. At least with taking things out of context. Let's hear a little bit about you guys personally. I just wanted to kind of open up where we were in the market. What made you become preachers, and then what ultimately took you out of that position? John, go ahead.
I was born and raised in Fort Wayne, and and since Fort Wayne is sort of behind the times, from time to time, in 1973, the Jesus movement hit Fort Wayne, even though in '69 it was out in California. See, it took a few years, I guess, but. I became one of those Jesus freaks, with the long hair and the studded bell-bottom jeans, and we used phrases like "get high on Jesus" and stuff like that. And so I converted out of the hippie movement basically, and I became a Christian not just to the bone, but to the very marrow. I mean, it was just my life. I was passionate about it. I had to learn about it. I read C.S. Lewis and Hal Lindsey and Francis Schaeffer, read the Bible through 7 times in a year, and went to as many church and conference and youth groups as I could, and I wanted to just live my life that way. And so it almost comes inevitably if you're that passionate about something, someone comes along and says to you, "Hey, you ought to be a preacher," because we haven't seen the likes of that before, not too often, right? So, somebody came and invited me to go to Bible college. I went there, I studied, and became a preacher. I mean,